Cecilia.
Thank you, Sarah. The president says that when Steve Bannon was fired, he not only lost his job, he lost his mind. Does he feel betrayed by Steve Bannon? Does he regret hiring him?
I think the president's statement is extremely clear what his position on Mr. Bannon is. It was pretty lengthy and pretty detailed, and there's not really much to clarify or to add.
But is there regret then? I mean, he says a lot in this book, and they did have a long and close working relationship. So is there a sense of betrayal?
Once again, I think the president's statement fully addresses what his position and what his relationship with Mr. Bannon is. April?
Sarah, when was the last time the president talked to Steve Bannon? And this is a serious question. Is the president now blocking Steve Bannon from calling his cell phone?
I'm not aware that he was calling his cell phone, but I believe the last conversation took place at the first part of December.
Now, what does this do to the base? That these two powerhouses are fighting in the Republican Party. What does this do to the president's base?
I don't think it does anything to the president's base. The base and the people that supported this president supported the president and supported his agenda. Those things haven't changed. The president's still exactly who he was yesterday as he was 2 years ago when he started out on the campaign trail. His agenda hasn't changed, and he's continuing to fight for and push for that agenda. And I think the base is extremely excited and happy with the job that this president has done in his first year in office. Look at all he's accomplished. I think they're pretty happy with where he is. Peter?
Steve Bannon has a distinct following, the alt-right, and some people who may not necessarily be for the other, people who are xenophobic. What happens there?
I think that's a question you're going to ask Steve Bannon. The president's base is very solid. It hasn't changed because the president hasn't changed and his agenda hasn't changed. And we're continuing to accomplish a lot of the things that were on the president's agenda as we did last year, and we're going to do a lot more this year as we move into the beginning of 2018. Peter?
A couple questions. I'll try to make these simple. First, did the president's
You don't think I can handle the hard ones?
Did the president's son, Donald Trump Jr., commit treason?
I think that is a ridiculous accusation and one that I'm pretty sure we've addressed many times from here before. And if that's in reference to comments made by Mr. Bannon, I'd refer you back to the ones that he made previously on 60 Minutes where he called the collusion with Russia about this president a total farce. So I think I would look back at that. If anybody's been inconsistent, it's been him. Certainly hasn't been the president or this administration.
So to follow up on that, did the president meet any of Donald Trump Jr.'s guests at that June 2016 Trump Tower meeting on that day?
As the president has stated many times, no, and he wasn't part or aware of that. John?
Thanks a lot, Sarah. It's a very harsh statement that the president put out today, and it's not the first time that Steve Bannon has been topic A here at the White House briefing. The last time, as you made reference to, was after his interview on 60 Minutes, and during that White House press briefing on September the 11th, and when a series of questions were asked of you at the time, you were pretty much hands-off in terms of going after Steve Bannon. The president didn't really respond in any particular way to the 60 Minutes interview. What's changed? What's changed between then and now after the interview that he apparently did with Michael Wolff for his book?
Look, once again, I think the president and his feelings toward Mr. Bannon are very clear in his statement, and there's really not much else to add beyond that. I don't think there's much gray area in what his feelings are. Francesca?
Thank you, Sarah. But to pick up on that, this is a pretty dramatic falling out between the president and someone who worked on his campaign and also worked in this White House very close to him every day. And so I think everyone is wondering what led to this quite dramatic falling out, and was it the loss of Roy Moore in that Senate race that was mentioned in the statement? You mentioned that they had last talked in early December. Is this a direct response to Steve Bannon calling the president's son unpatriotic and saying that he committed treason?
I think there are a number of factors that played in. I would certainly think that going after the president's son in an absolutely outrageous and unprecedented way is probably not the best way to curry favor with anybody. Ashley?
You mentioned the statement the president put out. It was very harsh, and it basically says the entire book is fiction. That said, a note explaining how the book came to be said that The authors conducted interviews for 18 months, including many with the president, spoke to over 200 people, many of the president's top aides and people.
He never actually sat down with the president, just to be very clear.
Two questions. Did they ever speak on
Since
the phone?
the president. There was one brief conversation that had nothing to do originally with the book. It was, I think, around 5 to 7 minutes in total since the president's taken office, and that's the only interaction that he's had. That's the only interaction that the president has had with Michael Wolff since he took office.
If you could reconcile the president's statement with the author's statement about how the book came to be.
I'm not sure what the author's statement is on how the book came to be. I know that the book is has a lot of things so far of what we've seen that are completely untrue. You have many people that have quotes that are sourced to them that are now coming out publicly and saying that those things are not true. And so I can't speak to what the author's comments were. I can only speak for the White House. Darlene?
Does the White House have a copy of the book now?
I believe there may be some individuals that do. Jim?
Sarah, the president's statement suggests that Steve Bannon had very little influence in the White House, but the president himself elevated him to the same level as the chief of staff and put him on the National Security Council. How do you reconcile that?
I wouldn't say that he elevated him to the same level of the chief of staff, and I think that in the actions that Steve took, the president was clear that it didn't have a lot of influence on him or the decision-making process throughout his time here at the White House.
One more thing. It's been reported that he was furious when these reports first came out about what Bannon was quoted as saying. Is that an accurate depiction?
I think furious, disgusted would probably certainly fit when you make such outrageous claims and completely false claims against the president, his administration, and his family. Kevin?
Sarah, thanks. I wanted to ask you personally, and I know you speak on behalf of the president, on behalf of the American people, how surprised were you at what you read, these excerpts attributed to Mr. Bannon? Did that surprise you in any way, and if so, how?
Certainly surprising. I, for one, was somebody who very much believed that the president could and would win. Otherwise, I wouldn't have dedicated so much time to that. But not only that, I worked in the White House since the very first day, and a lot of the characterization that I saw that he was pushing out was the opposite of what I saw take place every day that I've been here. Well, Trey.
Thank you, Sarah. A couple questions on Steve Bannon and one on North Korea. How would you describe Steve Bannon's role in the White House when he was serving in this administration?
I think the president addressed what he feels it was, and to me that's the most important voice in this process, and he's spoken very clearly on that front.
And if I could follow up, is the president looking for an apology from Steve Bannon? What is he looking for in the future from Steve Bannon?
I don't think anything.